Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope we're doing well. Today, I want to do something new that we haven't done on the channel yet, and its very young existence, is power rankings for the CFL. Now, I will try to do power rankings for the NFL. I'll try to do that week to week, but that's for another time. Today, we're doing the CFL. Now, it's 8 weeks into the season, and we got week 9 coming up in at about a day or two. I think we got week 9 coming up tomorrow, but today I want to do a power rankings just to see where every team is at. Now, I'm going to put in a head-to-head tiebreaker if the team's win totals are the same. For example, Ottawa and Edmonton. But I'll also give my opinions. It won't work for every single team. You'll see as we go on. But I'm going to rank them. But I'm also going to tell what's either helped their season or hurt their season. So let's get into it. Number 9, we're going to go from worst to first. Number 9, I've got the Ottawa Red Blacks. I don't know what to say about Ottawa. It's like Ottawa just refuses to try. They only have one win on the year. Both teams playing mad in the Ottawa-Calgary game. Now, I know Calgary's got Ottawa coming up, and I'm going to talk about that more in the predictions video. I talk about that more in predictions video, but Ottawa is not a good team. And we're talking about a team that went 9-8-1 last year and made the playoffs. So how is Ottawa only 1-6 to start? I can't justify seeing Ottawa in the playoffs. Ottawa is really, really bad. And I don't know what to say about them. It's like Ottawa just refuses to show up every chance they get. And I know they've had quarterback injuries. I know Drew Brown has been injured, but I don't even know their backup up enough to even say what I think of them. But it's really bad in Ottawa. Number 8 is the Edmonton Elks. Now, this is another pretty bad team. But the difference between Ottawa and Edmonton is, number 1, Edmonton beat Ottawa this year. That doesn't and all encompass their ranking. And both teams have the same win total. Oh, and that's like an early in the year thing. But number 2, Edmonton tries and can play in some pretty close games. Ottawa, I think, has only done that. Has only kept 2 of their games competitive. Edmonton, I think, has kept a little more. It's been a little more competitive. But I don't know what to say about Edmonton. They haven't been great. They're 1-6 as well. But I think Edmonton tries a little harder, whereas Ottawa just refuses to try. And that's what really puts Edmonton ahead of Ottawa for me. Number 7. I was almost going to put the BC Lions in here, but I settled on the Argonauts just due to them having... I know Toronto's had bad quarterback play. They haven't kept too many games competitive. They blew a lead a couple weeks ago against Montreal. They just beat Winnipeg in Toronto, in a game where everyone was slipping and sliding in the rain. Toronto beat Winnipeg, pretty dominantly too. I'm not talking about like the skin of their teeth or by 1, 2, or 3 points. They beat them 31-17. Toronto, Nick Arbuckle has had some good games, and that was a good game, but he's also had some real bad games. And I don't know what to say. Hey, about Toronto, really? Yeah, But I do think the future is looking up. They have Winnipeg again. They have Winnipeg's number. They keep beating Winnipeg, and I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But BC has a little more wins in the bank, another win in the bank than Toronto does, but that might not matter by the end of next week. I think Toronto will be in a playoff spot sooner rather than later. Do they keep a playoff spot? I don't know. That's a conversation for another day, but I think just getting back into one is probably objective number one right now for Toronto. But I have them at number 7. And because they have had bad quarterback play from Nick Arbuckle, but if he can string together a few good wins and go on a winning streak, or maybe win like 6 of 7, Toronto might be looked at in a completely different way. Number 6 is the BC Lions. Now, I went to a couple BC Lions games. Not the point I'm going to make. BC has a few wins, but I'm more going to criticize BC's wins rather than Toronto's wins, because, well, although Toronto beat Ottawa, it's like 2 bad teams. Somebody had to win. But Toronto beat Winnipeg. BC lost both to Winnipeg. Toronto dominated Winnipeg the other day. So that's why I think Toronto is looking up. But BC has more wins in the bank, so I put them ahead of Toronto. I have no head-to-head tiebreaker evidence, or I don't really have evidence between the two teams to decide. So I just went off win total, but that doesn't matter. Not the point. BC has had really shaky quarterback play. They just lost to Hamilton in what might have been the game of the year. They keep making mistakes, giving the ball back to the opponent late in the game. And not being up for the games, especially against Saskatchewan. Not being up for the game, or just having downright quarterback play. I know Nathan Rourke was injured, but Nathan Rourke has been shaky as well. Nathan Rourke, he does play well at times, but their BC is not consistent enough for me to look at them and say, hey, this is a team that could go on a run and win it and maybe make the Grey Cup. Like, if they had beaten Hamilton, and I would have said that because they would have crossed over, but I don't know what to say anymore. BC has been pretty disappointing and not consistent enough. Jeremiah Mazzoli played really bad in the 2 games that he played. And Nathan Rourke's been shaky too. BC is struggling with quarterbacks. They should have kept Vernon Adams Jr. I will explain that more or when we get to Calgary. But for BC is number 6 for now, and they're just a bit disappointing. Number 5 is gonna be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Winnipeg has had some good games, but they've also had really, really bad games. They lost by a combined total of 42 point difference in 2 games versus Calgary. Both of those games, I thought Winnipeg would win, but that's more an indictment on me thinking that Winnipeg would win those games than it is on the team. But it's a bit on the team as well, because Winnipeg has been really bad the last few weeks. They played really well against BC. They played really well against Edmonton, but then they played horribly against Calgary and Toronto. And you have to play Toronto again. I am I'm not confident that Toronto, or not Toronto, Winnipeg, will beat Toronto. But Winnipeg is in a free fall right now. Zach Collaros, I think something's bugging him, because he's not normally this bad. And like one bad game, like, okay, everyone has bad game. And Zach Collaros had a bad game the second time around against Calgary, and he left by halftime. Although, I don't know how good Chris Streveler actually is, start to finish, because he's been placed in bad situations. And so, I'm probably not going to judge him as harshly, but still, he didn't elevate Winnipeg one bit. But if Zach Collaros can not dig Winnipeg, if Winnipeg just doesn't dig themselves a hole, because they've had some bright spots even in really bad games, but they've lost 3 in a row. They went from 3-0 to 3-3. It's like there might be a little bit of a reason to panic. There might be, I think Winnipeg got their hand on the panic button, but I don't know if it's panic time quite yet. But sorry, I was thinking about that for a minute. But Winnipeg's probably got their hand on the panic button. I'm a bit worried if I'm a Winnipeg fan. If I'm a Blue Bomber fan, I'm a bit worried that they might just fall off the face of the earth. Because their next 2 games consist of Toronto and Calgary, and Winnipeg has been played really bad against both of them. So I think I'd be really worried. I would hope, if I was Winnipeg, that I'd turn it around. I was hoping if I was Winnipeg fan, my team would turn it around. But I don't know if they will. So that's why I'm a bit worried about Winnipeg. So they go number 5 for me. Number 4 is Montreal. Well, now, they haven't been getting bad performances from their roster. I think McLeod Bethel Thompson does enough to win. I think McLeod Bethel Thompson, Montreal's backup quarterback, gets unlucky. But he had a good game against Calgary. But this is big picture too. So yeah, this is big picture. And I think, I'm not comfortable. Here we go. And I think that Montreal has fallen off. I mean, they've lost a couple in a row. But unlike Winnipeg, Montreal turned it around and started winning in a couple. Sometimes a win is a win. And that's what I think I've been getting from Montreal. They haven't been lighting it up for me. The first 3 weeks, they were lighting up their own division, or anyone they played. And I don't know if they played a Western opponent. No, did they play the Elks yet? I'm not sure. But whether it was the comeback or the dominant game against Toronto, both of the Toronto games, Montreal has won. And I wouldn't be worried too much if I was Montreal. Just the tiebreaker, or they lose the game to Hamilton, that tiebreaker might come back to haunt them. But I know they play Hamilton at least once again. I know they play Hamilton at least one more time. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but it kind of knocks Montreal down on this list. It does knock them down in the standings, but I wouldn't be worried about Montreal all as a whole. But they're not lighting it up for me. And so that's why I put them down at number 4. I still think they'll be good by the end of the year. But they're not lining up for me. They lose a few that they probably shouldn't, but they are really competitive. They're in every game. They're either blowing it out. It takes a lot to beat Montreal. And I wouldn't be surprised if Montreal actually won this division, but I'll talk about the team that I actually think is going to win the division now. And at number 3, I've got the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I never thought I would see the day on a Power Rankings. Now, I know this is my first time, but I never thought I'd see the day that Hamilton would be at the top of the East Division and in the top 3 in a Power Rankings from anyone. But here they are. Hamilton's been lighting it up. Okay. Hamilton's first 2 games, everyone thought, oh, Hamilton's just terrible again. And it's like, all hype, no delivery. But you gotta remember, Hamilton's first 2 games were against Calgary and Saskatchewan. Those teams are competing for the Grey Cup, in my opinion. And they were somewhat in the Calgary game, and they only lost to Saskatchewan by 3 points. Right, although they kind of got blown out or dominated by Calgary, but again, Calgary does that to mostly everyone. And it takes a lot to beat Calgary this year, but we'll get to them in a minute. Then, since those 2 games, since their bye week, Hamilton's gone on a 5-game win streak. They're at the top of the East, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hamilton made the Grey Cup this year. If you had told me before the year, you're like, let's go back to like May. If you told me in May that Hamilton would be on top of the East Division and competing for a Grey Cup, I would have called you insane. But now, I think Hamilton is delivering on their hype. It's a bit unexpected because I didn't think Hamilton was going to do too good this year. I thought it was going to be Hamilton and Edmonton that were going to be the 2 worst teams. But Hamilton has had good play from their entire roster. And mostly every roster has talent, except Edmonton, but they have a couple quarterbacks. I mean, they have some talent or potential. Most everyone does, but Hamilton, it's whether they choose to use that potential and use it consistently is what determines your ranking in the league. And I think Hamilton is using theirs very well. You know, Hamilton almost lost to BC, but it was the game of the year. Hamilton and BC are pretty even. Hamilton is pretty much close, actually more closer to BC than they are to Saskatchewan or Calgary, the teams that they lost to. Anyway, so I'd be pretty happy right now if I was a Tiger Cat fan. But I think the next 2 teams that I'm going to talk about are even happier with their performances. And at number 2, call me biased for saying this, but I've got the Calgary Stampeders. Now, I'm not too biased against the Stampeders. I know that this might be a typical Saskatchewan fan and ranking his team better than anyone else, being an arrogant like that, thinking his team is better than anyone else. Else, knowing full well that Saskatchewan has lost to Calgary. But here's where it gets me that Saskatchewan is better than Calgary, despite the fact Calgary's beating Saskatchewan. Calgary beat Saskatchewan this year. I think in Calgary could be a much better team. But I also think but I also saw that Calgary loses a couple games that they probably shouldn't. Calgary occasionally drops one. It's not too often this year. Here, last year, it was almost common. It was almost like a routine. This year, it doesn't happen too much. Calgary doesn't drop a lot of games. They blew out Winnipeg twice this year. They dominate. They manhandled Saskatchewan. The game, I couldn't even see that game. But is why not even a full recap for week 6. It was tough. Often I couldn't even see my own team's game. I was very upset. And the next 2 games I think were self-explanatory, but never mind that. That was a few weeks ago. This week, I think that Calgary could be a better team than Saskatchewan. I think the top 2 teams in the league are Calgary and Saskatchewan. They'll probably play in the West Final, see who's really better overall. But Calgary's number 2 because they drop a few games that they shouldn't in at the last minute, and Saskatchewan doesn't do that. This is why I have Saskatchewan at number 1. And also Saskatchewan has more wins than Calgary. E2, they're standing alone on the top of the West despite Saskatchewan losing to Calgary. That was Saskatchewan's 1 loss this season. 1. There are 2 teams in the league that still only have 1 win, and Saskatchewan has only 1 loss. Saskatchewan was going to be my Grey Cup pick coming into the year because, okay, that could have been biased. But I still think Saskatchewan is the team to beat in the league. Saskatchewan, in 1 week, they might blow a team out. The next week, they might lose. But that's just sports. Sports is unpredictable. But it's a fun ride. They're a fun watch mostly every week. Almost every week this year, they've been a fun watch. And even if they lose a couple more, which I think they will, even if they lose a couple more, or I might be upset about it as a Rider fan, as a Saskatchewan fan, but I still think it's going to be a fun watch. I am proud. This team makes me proud more often than it doesn't. And I am proud supporting this Saskatchewan team. And I think they could win it all. But that is my power rankings. I'm going to try and do this maybe in 3 weeks or 4 weeks later. See if anything changed. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like the video. Hit the subscribe button. Share it with your friends and family. Spread the word. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.